That's how Jacob and his brother Esau were. And then he came out, and he wasn't even okay with being, you know what, birth is hard for mom, so I'm going to let her have this easy. No. He was in such conflict with his brother, he was holding on for dear life and came out holding on to his brother's leg. He was in conflict his entire life. And so that's why they named him Jacob. It's a Hebrew idiom for deceiver. Because he was always in conflict. He was in conflict with his brother. He was in conflict with his father. He was in conflict. He eventually ran away because he deceived his father and his brother out of his birthright. Wow. And so he ran away, and he found himself in the land of a guy named Laban. And he ran away from conflict, and he found himself in a guy named Laban. Where did he find himself in conflict? And he comes to the point where he is just butting heads with this guy named Laban. I'll give you a little bit of backstory. We can't go into the details this morning. But he fell in love with Laban's daughter. And Laban and he had conflict. And Laban tricked him. Ended up making him work for him for 20 years. He ended up marrying both of his daughters, Rachel and Leah. He had 11 kids. But he got tricked out of all this stuff. And he just said, conflict. And that picks us up right here in Genesis chapter 31, where he really starts to rub. You live with a guy for 20 years, you marry his daughters, you have his grandkids, you kind of get okay, but it just keeps rubbing. And that's where we find ourselves right here, Genesis chapter 31. Let's pick it up there, 31 verse 1. Jacob heard that Laban's sons, his wife's brother-in-law, were saying, Jacob has taken everything our father owned and has gained all this wealth from what belonged to our father. And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude toward him was not what it once had been. It never had been good, let's be honest, but it's gotten even worse. For some of us who are sitting here going, wow, I relate to that. I relate to having a rub with my family. I relate to having conflict with others. I relate to this conflict phase. And you know what's interesting about conflict? It's what God is using to get our attention. So if you've ever had conflict, you're living in conflict right now, congratulations. God's knocking on your heart. He's knocking on your door saying, hey, let's connect right here. Conflict. So Jacob has got this conflict, and so he does what he has always done, decides to run away. So, you know what? He's hearing the grumblings. He knows what's going on. He says, you know what? I'm going to pack up my 2 wives, my 11 kids, and I'm going to get out of town. And he tries to do this quietly. I've got 2 kids. We didn't go anywhere quiet. 11 kids. Just doesn't happen. Can you imagine that? And no, hey, you come back and get dressed. Who took my home? Nothing happens quietly. But he packs them all up and he hits the road. Well, Laban, he'd been out of town. He comes back and he finds out Jacob took the grandkids. Not happy. He's continually in conflict. So Laban decides to pack up and head after him. So here's Jacob. He's in the conflict phase. He knows, wait a minute, it's not going good there. Things aren't really good. Where am I going to go? The only place I have left to go is home. Things aren't good there. My brother hates me, probably wants to kill me. And he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. And that's where Laban finds himself when we get to him in chapter 31. We find himself by a river called Jabbok. And he's sitting there and he's trying to figure out what's going on. He's like, well, can't go back there. Can't go there. Wait a minute. I know how to go there. By this point, he had gotten a lot of wealth, a lot of sheep and goats. The same thing you and I have. Sheep, goats, a lot of wealth. And he says, you know what? I'm going to bribe my brother. So he sends his servants on to take these sheep and these goats, tell them, these are for you. My brother's right behind. These are for you. These are for you. So the messengers go, and they come back. And if you pick it up, Genesis 32:6. The messengers returned to Jacob and reported, we met your brother, Esau, and he's already on his way to meet you. Good! With an army of 400 men. Bad. Jacob was terrified in the rock and the hard place. He's stuck. He's stuck. He's been running from conflict all of his life, and now he's stuck. I think a lot of us understand that feeling. We've been running from conflict, running from conflict, running from conflict. What are we going to do? Pick it up in 32, verse 9. It says, then Jacob prayed, oh God. I think this sounds like, oh God! Oh Lord, I'm unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you've shown me. Save me, I pray, for I am afraid. And he comes to what we learned 5 weeks ago is the first healing choice, the reality choice. It's realizing I'm not God. I'm powerless to control my tendency to do the wrong thing. My life is unmanageable. And we read in Matthew 5:3, God blesses those who realize their need for Him. I can't do it on my own. I need help. And that's what Jacob found. I can't do it. You know, he drew a line in the sand with Laban. He can't go back there. Esau's coming. He's got 400 guys that cheated him out of his birthright. He's probably going to kill me. I can't do it. What am I going to do? So Jacob kind of wrestles and tries to figure out what's going on. He says, I know. All right, I've got 2 wives, 11 kids, a lot of sheep. I'm going to split them up, send one this way, send one that way, and whichever one Esau finds, he's not going to probably kill one, but then at least have half my family. He figures maybe that's a good plan. So he sends one this way, sends one this way, and he finds himself all alone in camp by the river Jabbok. And that's when he begins to move into phase 2. Phase 2 is the crisis phase. Phase 1 is the conflict phase. Conflict with people, conflict with others, conflict with family. But here he is, he's come to the point where he says, God, I can't do this. I need help. And he moves into the crisis phase. And the crisis phase is crisis with God. You ask God for help, and God shows up. But probably not in the way you're thinking. Let's pick it up, 32 verses 23 through 25. After taking them to the other side, his family, he sent over all his possessions. He's alone, he's got nothing. This left Jacob all alone in the camp. And a man came, and this man is the man form of God. This is God coming. God came and he wrestled with him until the dawn began to break. When the man saw that he could not win the match, he touched Jacob's hip and wrenched it out of his socket. God showed up as a wrestler. Let's unpack that a little bit. Now, before we move on, as I've studied this, there's actually a bit of a pun here. I really like puns. And if you read this in the Hebrew, I don't read Hebrew, but I understand that this is a pun. You see, in Hebrew, the word Jacob is Jabal. And the word for wrestling is Jabbok. And the place where they were at was the Jabbok River. So if you were in Hebrew, you're reading this in Hebrew, it sounds something like this. Jabab, Jabbok, Jabbok. Thought that was funny. So here we have Jacob, and he's asked God, I gotta give up, I can't do this. He's done the reality choice. God, help save me. And God shows up and proceeds to put him in a half melt. That's when he realizes, you know what? My biggest conflict is not with my brother. It's not with my father-in-law. It's not with my family. It's not with my friends. My biggest conflict is with God. You know what? It's ours too. Our biggest conflict is with God because we want to do what we want to do. And God finally comes to Jacob and he comes to us and says, all right, caught in a tough spot. You finally realized I'm the only way out, so let's have it out. Let's wrestle. Now, why does God want to wrestle? What's the significance of that? Well, it's kind of interesting because wrestling is a contact sport. It's up close. He doesn't play badminton with him. It's a contact sport. It's up close. It's intimate. You know what? I think that's so like God. Because he would so much rather be up close with us than far away. He prefers to be up close, even if he's listening to you rant and rave and go on and on. You know, he's big enough. He can handle it. He'd so much rather have you up close and angry than far away and apathetic. I'll say that again. So much rather have you up close and angry than far away and apathetic. That's good stuff. Conflict. What are we using conflict for? We mask ourselves with all these conflicts with people. We really realize, you know what? I've got to come to the point, this crisis phase, where it's conflict with God. Our biggest struggle is that we want to do things our way. We are such in a hurry to get things done our way. We don't slow down and say, God, what is your way? We want to do things our way. I mean, how many times does that happen in our life? We're such in a hurry to date the right person, and then marry the right person, and then have kids. We never stop and say, God, what's your way? We're such in a hurry to get a job. We get this job. We need to get a promotion. We need to get a raise. We're such in a hurry. We want to do things our way. A lot of us are in conflict with God. And you know what? If you find yourself right there, God is saying to you, all right, let's go to the mat. Let's go, one-on-one. Mano a mano. Let's wrestle. You know the neat thing about wrestling? I really like wrestling. Would you believe I was a wrestler in high school? Yeah, nobody else does that. But the purpose of wrestling is to get to the mat. The purpose of wrestling is when you say, uncle. You say, I give up. You know what? That's exactly what God is looking for us. I give up. I give up. You say, well, I thought God was loving. I thought he was kind. Why would he want to wrestle me? Why would he want to tussle around with me? Yeah, he loves you. He loves you just the way you are, but he loves you so much more than to leave you where you are. He wants to get intimate. He wants to get that contact sport because he loves you so much. He wants to move you out of that conflict into the crisis so that you can get healing. And he knows that you can just keep going on your own path. I do it all the time. We all do it all the time. We just keep going. He says, hey, let's wrestle. Because I've got to get you to the point where you say, I give up. Why are we giving up? I mean, what are we fearful of, huh? What are we fearful of if we finally say, yes, God, I give up. I do want to be a fully devoted follower of you. I mean, are we afraid that we'll be called to go to Africa, give out soup? Are you afraid that we'll be called to be a televangelist? Or polyester? Have big hair? What is it that we're afraid of with God? You know, we sang about it this morning. He loves us. He loves us. Why are we so afraid of him? You know what's interesting is that as you move through this, you get to the hope choice. Earnestly believing God exists, that I matter to him, and that he has that power to help me recover, to heal, to grow. Good stuff. So Jacob comes to that point. He comes to realize, you know what? There is a God. He's right here. He's wrestling me. He knows exactly what's going on. And then he comes to the third phase, the commitment phase. That's where God starts to change. Where he finally says, God, I give up. I want your plan. Let's pick it up in the story, chapter 32, verse 26. Then the man said, let me go, for it is dawn. They've been wrestling all night long. But Jacob panted. I mean, he was out of breath. I mean, this was a full-on. I won't let you go until you bless me. He's engaged now. He doesn't just want to walk away. He's engaged. Commitment. He's saying, you know what? I am not done here. I'm serious about change. I need change because you know what? What's going on in my life, it doesn't work. I've got conflict with my family. I've got conflict with my family. I don't know what's going on. I've got this thing. I can't move on. I can't get out. I need change. And I think a lot of us are in that same spot. My marriage, it's rough. I can't move on. I can't get out. I need change. I won't let go until, God, you show me your way. That's the commitment. That's the commitment. He says, I won't let go until you bless me. Listen to the passion in that. God loves that passion. I won't let go until you bless me. There's a passionate prayer there. There's something God says, you know what, I love that passion. You know, I'm not looking for a prayer like, God, if you might mind, if you have time, love it if you could change me, you know, if that's cool, I'll be all right. You know. Not wimpy prayers, passionate prayers, commitment, diving in. And that's what brings us to the third choice, the commitment choice.